All right, so now we're going to jump into the first form here, which is for an application for disability insurance benefits. This is SSDI to be specific. A lot of this information is going to be fairly straightforward. Your name, your date of birth, your social security number, what language you speak, male or female. This is the actual paper application. If you're doing a face-to-face or a telephone interview, a lot of this is just going to be, fairly obvious. Because if you have an appointment, they're going to have a lot of this information already. Again, are you a citizen? So going back to what we talked about earlier, if you haven't updated your citizenship, make sure you do that, or they'll tell you that you need to do that and provide the documents as soon as possible. Excuse me. I'll just touch base on some of the questions that kind of stick out here. If you have any work in the railroad, you're going to want to make sure that you list that. Any work outside the United States, if you're eligible, for a pension. Have you ever received workman's comp, even if it's, for a separate, injury or period of disability? You still need to list any time that you've received workman's comp. That is tremendous, because if you received a settlement from the Workers' Compensation Commission, that settlement is going to cover a period of time. Meaning that if you ended up applying for disability benefits, one or the other is going to be offset depending on the state that you live in. So depending on the rules of that state, you have like reverse jurisdiction, and sometimes I get these mixed up. So in certain states, Social Security will offset your workman's comp. Other states, workman's comp will offset your Social Security. It just depends on the laws in your state. Going further, again, it's asking about your marriages. This is why those dates or approximate dates as best as you can. If you can't fully remember, if you're doing a telephone interview or face-to-face, they'll ask you, okay, well, when did you get married? Normally, I get as close as I can. So if somebody says, I was married 20 years ago, okay, well, I'll just put January 1st of 2002 for now. And then if you are able to pinpoint that information, let me know later. All right. Asking information about your kids, how old they are they disabled, are they still in school, and then it's also there's going to question in here, are you, I think this is it right here, yeah, are you blind? Again, Social Security is going to take any allegation that you tell them. So if you feel like you have an issue with blindness where you might be legally blind or low vision, certainly put that on your application and it will be evaluated. Realistically, in order to be approved for statutory blindness, the vision in your good eye has to be worse than 20/200. So that's 20-200. And that's in your better eye for you to be declared blind or legally blind, whatever the case may be. So that, if that sounds like you, or you have that issue of maybe glaucoma or something like that, you have some sort of vision problem, make sure to speak with I believe it's an optometrist or whoever your eye specialist is on what they're going to say if you make that allegation, because it will get looked into. If you're approved for statutory blindness, the rules, if you were to work and receive disability, are much different. You have a much greater amount as far as what you can make, because realistically your expenses are much higher. You probably aren't allowed to drive, and now you have the cost of going to and from work every day. So if you have to pay for an Uber, maybe public transportation, or something like that, again, your cost is going to be significantly higher than somebody who's not blind. Getting further into it, you can see it's talking about, do you receive any other types of benefits? And then it's going into work and any types of special payment that you might get, and then any other remarks that you might want to leave. And then you're going to sign, date, leave your telephone number, and then your bank information if you're applying by paper. Sometimes it's good to, if you want it to be a quick interview, maybe you have a doctor's appointment that day or something's going to come up, or you just want to be prepared as possible. The name of this form is SSA-8000. It's a public form. You can look up it on Google. That way you can anticipate the questions ahead of time, and you can make your own notes, and you can either mail this in or wait for your face-to-face or telephone interview, or if you're sitting down with like an attorney or something like that, you'll have all this information available. The next form that we're going to talk about is the SSA-8000. If you got mailed an application or you're looking online, you're going to see kind of like two versions of this. So there's the SSA-8000, and this is an application for SSI. So the 8000 is the full application, and the 8001, let me see if I pulled it up here. The 8001 is an abbreviated, no, I didn't pull it up. It's an abbreviated version, so there's certain questions that are not asking you in the 8001. If you're trying to be as prepared as possible, review the 8000, because some of the questions off the top of my head that I can remember that stick out, it just gets in more detail about your income and your resources, like the details of how many cars you own, maybe how much you pay in rent, how long you've been living at that location, who else is living there, and it's more details. Abbreviated applications we use in a situation where maybe it's kind of obvious that you're not going to qualify for SSI. So, if you tell the representative right off the bat that, I'm a single person and I have $3,000 in a savings account, they're going to do enough to basically document that resource to be able to deny you, so that it's in writing, like, okay, this is why we're denying you. You said that you had above the restricted limit, and et cetera, et cetera. All right, so a lot of the same questions, your name, your date of birth, are you married, are you single, do you have kids, are you divorced, and again, the income and resources. So when I would take basically abbreviated SSI applications, kind of key questions I'm going to be asking right off the bat before I even start anything: how much do you have in your checking or savings account? How many vehicles you own? What's the year, make, and model of those vehicles? What are they worth? Do you have any cash off hand? Do you receive any assistance from anybody outside your household? It's stuff like that affects basically your resources and how you're living. So as an example, if you're telling the representative, yeah, I live in an apartment and my rent is $1,500 a month, they're going to say, okay, well, how are you paying that $1,500 a month? And they're going to investigate. Why? Okay. So you're saying that you're not working, your rent's $1,500 a month, what's happening? A common response to that would either be, well, I'm not paying rent, I'm just waiting to get kicked out, or you have family members helping you. And at that point, they're going to document, okay, they're receiving financial assistance from a family member or a church, or a friend maybe, or if you're staying on a friend's couch, they're going to document that. And then also, is it likely that in the next few months, while we're waiting for a medical determination, is it likely that you'll move? If so, where do you think you'll move? And then they'll make you aware that you have to update them on your move. So during your application process, if you change your address, you change your telephone number, you change your bank information, especially if it's SSI and your living situation changes, you are obligated to notify them of all of that. All right. And this is pretty much, again, it's a lot of it's the same information from the other form. So you can see right here, question 25, do you live in a house, an apartment, a room, a mobile home, a houseboat, or something else? So it's a lot of details on your living situation, because that determines what you get paid from the SSI program. You can see it's much more extensive too. The reason why they don't ask this of Social Security beneficiaries or applicants is because Social Security is based off of the taxes that you've paid, where SSI is not. So there's a greater level of accountability, basically, when you're receiving welfare or any type of public assistance. It might be Medicaid. Typically, every year you should be recertifying Medicaid if you're receiving it, and you'll get a letter from Medicaid saying, okay, we need to verify that all your information is still the same, or if it's changed, and if it's changed, let us know kind of what's going on. And then they'll give you a new determination on if you requalify or if they have to drop you. So that's the purpose of that.